Welcome to Music from Humans, the show where we dive into the creative minds of today's composers and improvisers. I'm your host, Michael Cook, and today I'm thrilled to introduce Stephen Main, a remarkable composer, conductor, teacher, and multi-instrumentalist whose work spans choral, orchestral, and even film music. Stephen, a recipient of the John Ness Beck Award, his perspective is sure to offer a fresh and inspiring take on music making. Is there any other interesting things that you think composers or other players should do?
As you know, your composing vision, it's an interesting intersection of your intimate knowledge of the instrument that it's going to actually have to take place on. I don't play a lick of trumpet. I know nothing about the instrument. And by the way, that's never something you should be proud about. Right? Ravel was the great teacher of all of us who famously, as I've often told my students, Ravel was famous for having a lesson on every instrument, at least one, with every instrument in the orchestra. That doesn't mean he was trying to actually learn how to play them. He just wanted to get a felt belly feel for the challenges, the problems they have to face. And also he would, and this is the important part, he would ask every one of the players of those instruments, what's the one thing you wish people would know before they wrote for the oboe, right? And then the oboist would say, well, I love it when they do this. I hate it when they do that, right? I think I took up harp, years ago. I now look back in shame at all the bad harp music I wrote before that, because I had no idea. And like most composers, I thought the harp is like a big naked piano turned up on its side, right? Basically write for it the same way. Totally not at all. The harp is much more like a guitar than anything else, right? Number one rule, don't keep touching the harp. It just damps things out. So play things and then let the harp be a harp. Piano is totally different. I didn't know that. That experience, and I play bass now, it's been the latest instrument, and I've been now realizing, all the crappy bass music I wrote and all the crappy bass lines that I wrote for years. So I've had that experience enough now that I had to write a piece for marimba a while back. Boy, the first thing I did, get on the phone with your best percussionist friend and say, okay, let me know everything I need to know about marimba. Don't hold back. Tell me all the things that irritate you when composers write for marimba that you just wish that they'd known, right? And could have saved themselves a lot of trouble if they just checked in. So that's one thing as an improviser, learn other instruments. The other one is, and I tell this to adult musician friends, I'm a huge believer, as you know, and I know you are too, of learning another instrument. That said, I usually caution people, every instrument is equally hard in the end. We all know that. However, every instrument I've learned in my own experience has a different learning curve. So I started life as a violin player because that was the instrument that was handed to me. Violins have a very steep learning curve. It's pretty much uphill that first year. You're going to sound like crap for a really long time. It's same thing with trumpet. We've all heard kids that have to start on trumpet or violin, steep learning curve. By about year one, you might be able to sound tolerable, maybe if you're lucky, but not those first few months. It's pretty bad. Harp, on the other hand, harp is a very, very complicated, difficult instrument to play, but it has a very shallow learning curve, very shallow. Again, this is not before people get upset. Every instrument is equally as hard in the end. But harp, you can literally take a harp and go, that's going to sound as good as a professional harpist. Within about 2 lessons, you can do that. It's got a nice reverb. It's going to sound gentler. Same thing with piano, a little bit of a shallower learning curve, right? There are instruments that are like that. The reason that's important is I tell fellow professional friends of mine, if you're going to learn another instrument, this has got a lot of patience. Pick one of those easier, shallow learning curve, adult learning instruments, like a harp. Harp is great for that. I've taught opening harp lessons to a whole lot of fellow professional musicians who said, I always wanted to learn, but I didn't want to become a conservatory harpist and do all that crap. Great. Let's sit down and learn one, right? You'll get a lot of it fast and you'll begin to make pleasing sound right away, as opposed to my secret love. I would love to learn French horn. All my French horn players say, no, don't.
It's hard. Just the hardest brass. Yeah.
It's so hard. It's steep learning curve like crazy. They say, get ready for split lips and for all the rest of it for a year and very little joy. And so what I tell people is if you're learning a second instrument, if you're a grown-up, if you're a kid, kids have an unbelievable capacity for patience with that stuff. For grown-ups, maybe not so much, and you only have limited time in the world. So pick an instrument that's going to give you some immediate pleasurable feedback. Keyboards are a good start for that, harp, whatever, so that you can actually get something out of it. And I think you'll learn a lot that way.